Hello and welcome to view our favorite AI video generator called Fliki AI. Now, we have checked many different AI video generators before, such as Eli and Synthesia. There's also our one, Colossian, Movio, Yapik, Synthesis, and InVideo. But in our opinion, Fliki is really the sort of easiest one to start with. It's a very simplistic design. You are sort of limited in what you can do, but with these limitations, you become very effective in creating content. And that's ultimately what you want when you start using an AI video generator compared to other video editing tools such as Premiere Pro, for instance. We have here the login window from Fliki, and before we start into the editing, let's quickly check the pricing. We currently have the standard subscription. This is not a paid advertisement. We do not get anything from that. We paid it ourselves, this subscription here, which is very good to start with. Ideally, you take the premium version because you have better voices, but the voices you get with a standard package are still very good. And what's also perfect is that you can basically use the free version to start with. It gives you 5 minutes, and you can basically get an idea how Fleeky works. Now, let's log into the system. We log in through Google, but you can basically use any other kind of login via Facebook, for instance, or you use your email to do that. Now, the great thing is that basically once you logged in, you can see all the videos you have created. And given the plethora of videos that we have here, you can see that we've really used Fleeky extensively. And that gives us the credibility to really say this is by far the easiest and simplest AI video generator out in the market that we have come across. So you can really see there's so many videos we've done already. And yeah, a recent feature that they added, which obviously makes only sense if you have many videos, is you can add a folder and group everything together so that you have an internal logic. But since that was recently introduced, we haven't tried it out yet. But the logic is quite clear. Now you can also do other things such as podcasts and audiobooks, but today's focus is really about the AI video generating feature from Fleeky. Now, to start a new video, basically, you need to click here, new file. You can give it a name. For example, let's say we call it video tutorial, and then you can choose the language. The language is important here because this then sets the default to which AI audio voices you will get. So in our case, we use English, but you could use many more. Now let's hit the create button and we directly jump into the main user interface. Uh, Quite clean everything, and that's really great. You don't really have this timeline-based editing, which gives you a great, amount of clearness, and you don't really need to search for things here. So the usability overall for a newbie is fantastic. Now, the first thing we should really do is to set the format we want. As you can see here, we have a squared format, which is great for several kinds of platforms, for instance, Facebook and Twitter. But in our case, we can click on the settings button here. And then when it comes to size, you see there's different areas we can pick. For instance, square, which is by default. Then there's portrait, which would work, for instance, if you do a Instagram Reel or TikTok or YouTube Short. And if you want landscape, which would be for a traditional YouTube movie, you would pick this one here. Now, since you can work a lot with stock footage, you can allow some sort of fade effect between each scene and a zoom effect for images. Now, you can leave it here. I prefer to deactivate it because I prefer to control everything manually, since I come from a more traditional editing background with DaVinci Resolve and Premiere Pro, but that's totally up to you. Now, once you confirmed it, you can already see, voila, now we do have our traditional format here, and we can basically jump on the left side on the user interface and walk through the different features we have here. So on the very top, and that was recently introduced with a new editor, is you can basically set a background music if you wish. So for instance, there's tons of footage, sorry, not footage, there's tons of music that you can use freely. You can listen here in advance. Pick another one, or you can even upload music here and then basically choose your own music. We won't do that here because again, the main focus of this video is really the video generator and sort of the editor here in place. So that is basically the first scene. Now, when you work with AI video generators, very often they are not based on this sort of timeline-based editing where you have sort of a minute and second scale on the horizontal axis. Instead, you have some sort of vertical axis here that is somewhat similar to PowerPoint scenery. So each scene basically is an aspect of your movie at the end, and you can basically adjust settings for each scene here. Now, the main thing is obviously you use such a tool because you have some kind of text, and you want the text to be spoken out by a very nicely sounding voice, and you want some kind of footage together with it. So one thing would be you use the Fliki video editor to write your text. For example, you could write here, hello and welcome to this video. And if you hit enter, it would basically finish here, and it should, in theory, add a new scene here. I didn't do that. I did it with the old editor. Um, Now we have a new one here, voila. And you can see basically every piece of text corresponds to some piece of footage and can be edited further. But the nice thing that I would like to show here, let me quickly delete this scene, is that you can prepare your script in advance, like you would normally do if you produce content. For instance, I have here a dummy script that I prepared. Voila, it's really simplistic, nothing crazy. Okay, and if you pick it, let's say this one, it's really just a random example. You can paste it here, and when you paste it, it will basically already cut everything in the scenes as in your script. And that is really, really, really great. And obviously, you might end up at saying, oh, I want a specific piece of a sentence disintegrated in further scenery. That is totally possible. But with just copy paste, we already got 9 scenes, and now we can basically decide what we do with them. So ideally, the next thing to do is we choose a voice, because at the end we want that voice sort of to speak the text here. The text to speech feature is really the added value of most of the AI video generators. And if you click on the voice icon here, for instance, our default that we've set is Sarah. It's a voice we like a lot, and you can basically see here, those are the available voices. I can add even more. So the list is quite rich in voices. And those that are grayed out, unfortunately, are not part of our deal. So if you upgrade to a more expensive subscription, you get even better voices. But the one that you get with a premium subscription that I've showed you earlier is already very, very good. Now, there's two features. The orange element here is basically a an indicator that the voice can come in different styles. So, for instance, our Sarah can come in angry, cheerful, excited, friendly, etc. Everything what you see here, and that is quite nice depending on the kind of video message that you want to share. And the good thing is, across every different scene, you can swap this. So you can have Sarah talking normally, and then in another scene, you can have her speaking a bit, let's say, more sadly or terrified. Really depends what you want to do with that. Um, so we go with the normal Sarah, as this, in my opinion, is a very good one. If, let's say, you come across a situation that you realize, Sarah is maybe not the best, and you wish to choose another um, voice, you can just hit this button, and it will automatically change everything, basically the entire scenery, to the new voice. Okay. It takes a little bit of processing time, but then we are basically finished. And the nice thing now is, obviously, once you have the voice chosen, you want some sort of footage that you want to show. Now you can go totally manually and say, okay, I click into the footage button and I go into my library and then I upload something that I have on my desktop, whatever that is. Yeah, you can do that. Go totally manually. Let's say I like. So basically in Canva, I would do some simple editing here. As you can see from a video we've done about Perplexity AI, we use Canva because the footage in Canva is even better. And in Canva, you can basically do lots of other things, such as removing background and then having this guy cheering around without having any weird background around him. And what we would typically do is we start a simple movie in Canva in the same format, 1080p, and then every scene that we cannot satisfy with Fliki, in other words, every scene where the built-in stock footage is not good enough, we would do it with Canva and then export it from there individually and then upload it as our own footage. This is, in maybe you could say, the more pro way of using Fliki, but for starters, you don't have to do that. You can basically just hit the footage button and then automatically you'll be ending up in the stock library and you can search for, I don't know, maybe you can write TV host. Let's see what we have here. Okay, you have this person here, this woman. This looks a bit too unnatural. This looks a bit more natural. Maybe you can integrate that here and you can see that's how it looks. Looks very genuine. You can play the individual scene here. It'll take a while. Usually you see it's moving. Okay, that's maybe a bit weird because you have a man speaking and a female voice, but I think you get the idea. Now, the thing you see immediately is basically this here. You have the text underneath, the subtitles. Now, the subtitles are very, very nice because you can either leave them that way or you can choose a different position, as you see me here hovering on the right side of the editor. Now this obviously only works if you are activating the text. So as you see, I click here, this entire area becomes sort of pinkish, and that means we can edit this area here. It really depends. If, let's say, you use YouTube and you prefer that the YouTube subtitles are active, then I would deactivate that here and not use it. But if you use any other kind of platform to spread your video, I think it's clever to activate it because sometimes, people tend to view a video when they're in an environment where they don't want to play it out loudly or they don't have their earplugs. And so that is quite a nice feature. You can also specify the text color, background color, etc. That is very useful here. And once again, when you do an editing and you realize, okay, I want everything to be adjusted the way you do it here, you can just click this button here and it will basically do the same to everything. Oh, one more thing that is quite cool is now we see an entire phrase, but if you wish, you can also display only one single word or a sequence or basically the entire text you pop into this scene here. So yes, the tools are limited on the one hand compared to, let's say, an in-depth editor like Premiere Pro, but for an AI video generator, I think the flexibility you have on the one hand and the simplicity the editor has on the other hand are fantastic. Okay. And with the new editor that Fliki introduced recently, we can do much more than just add a single footage as we've done here. We could say, for instance, on the right side, we want another piece of topic. And the moment we add another media on the right side here, we'd see a second window where we can add more footage. For instance, here we see our recent footage that we have uploaded previously. This again was, if you recall, to upload your own footage. There's even AI art. Let's give it a try. let's have um, a mountain with sun and beautiful sky. Let's see what the AI art creates us. Okay, this can take up to 10 seconds, but it might be useful for certain things that, oh, that looks not very good. Regenerate. Maybe it's an issue of my computer because I've changed computer recently and something is not in line with this web service here. Okay, the AI art doesn't seem to work at the moment, but anyway, we can pick up this beautiful mountain here, for instance, at the ocean, and have it inserted here. Voila, this is where it is. We can play it again if we want. Exactly. Now what we can do also is we can add in a layer. So for instance, if I hit here, the add layer button, I can decide I want a specific piece of text because maybe I want that mountain here to have its name on it. So let's call it, I don't know, Mount Brown. That doesn't really make much sense, but basically let's call it this way. And we want it to literally be above the mountain. Let's move it on the right side. And we also go for size small here. Maybe we can go for a bit of a different background since we really want it to stick out. Let's move this. Okay. Yep. Maybe something like this is good. Okay. So now we have a scenery where our traditional voice would speak out this text here, and we could still depict text in a position that Fliki AI tells us to do. Exactly. Wonderful. That is great. So this is essentially how you use this tool. And besides text overlay, you could obviously, as you see here, you could also have a picture in a picture. That might be very useful sometimes when you want to not move that footage. So for instance, let me go back and click on the layout here and go back to the single footage we had earlier. And let me also delete the Mount Brown here because we don't need it for this thing I would like to show. As you see here, there's plenty of free space. So in that case, we could add a layer, we could add a picture in a picture, and let's add, I don't know, let's just write Google here, Google logo. Yeah, maybe we can add this. And let's change the text. Tell and remember this video about our favorite Google service. Okay, let's say this would be our topic. Then we can enter this here. We could give it, wait a second, I need to make sure I'm on the right area when I edit this. So always remember it has to be sort of pinkish so that it makes any sense. And yeah, we can basically now determine the position. That makes a lot of sense because here we have a lot of unused real estate. And now we can specify the size. Maybe this is better because originally this footage that we have integrated here was a horizontal picture. So it being cropped, for instance, vertically would be kind of weird. And so we might need to pick the correct version here so that it makes sense for us. If that piece of footage comes with audio, you can also specify that here and put it to 0, for instance, or leave it at 100 as you wish. In our case, we put it to 0 because obviously we want that voice here to be fully available to 100. And so that speaker person essentially tells us what's going on. And here we can depict our footage again. And basically with this logic, you go through the entire scenery. You can add your own footage, you can add stock footage from Fliki, or if you have other footage databases, you're totally free to use those. Now in settings, there's not much else we can change. I've showed you earlier. The convert feature is probably something for another video. That would not be if you have a script. That will be if you already have previous footage or content that you would like to integrate. For instance, you could take a tweet from a famous person and then put this into a video. It would basically use AI to split the tweet into individual scenery, and then you can pick, or even the tool sometimes automatically picks, Fliki automatically picks a stock footage. You can upload a PowerPoint presentation and create this into a video. You can add a website. It's called block to video or idea to video, where Fliki would ask you what kind of idea do you have. You integrate the idea, and then AI would create a script for you. But again, this is something for another video. What you do at the very end, you hit the export button, and this would then export the video based on the kind of quality criteria that is part of your subscription plan. In our case, this is full HD 1080p, which is totally fine for most web-based applications. And I think this is something that you should totally be happy with if this comes. Now, last but not least, you can also view your content before exporting, because every time you export, you lose credits, and every time you translate text to speech, you're gonna lose points, if you will. So each time uh, when you have a subscription, you get a certain amount of minutes, and if these minutes are gone, well, then you can no more translate text to speech and export content. So use that wisely. A great way to do a final quality check is by basically playing this entirely in full screen view. Uh, be aware that this is not rendered yet. That means sometimes it might be a bit buffery, so there'll be like a few seconds you need to wait between scenes, but usually it works quite well, and you can really get an impression about your video before hitting the export button. Okay, again, here was the audio that you can put behind your video if you like that. Otherwise, I think that is pretty much what our AI video generator tool is doing. And for now, I think this is, again, one of the best ones if you start into AI video generation. We have tried many before. Some are much more complex, some are much more limited, and Fliki is really the one that comes in with innovation and flexibility. And if you wish to check out Fliki yourself, we provide a link in the video description that you can follow. And if you have any questions, let us know in the comment below. Please also follow our Epic AI Tools channel and click the thumbs up button. Thank you for watching. We hope you learned something new, and see you next time.